Hello and welcome to my latest Miss HubNut video. This is a little bit of a homecoming for me because this is the town where I went to school. I lived in the area from the age of 6. Well, till now we've been in the area. So, croeso, welcome to Newcastle Emlyn. Now, as you can see behind me, this is the ruin of Newcastle Emlyn Castle. Newcastle Emlyn Castle was established by Moredydd ap Rhys in the early 13th century. Now initially, as with many castles around here, it was built from wood and so on, but this became the first stone castle built by a Welshman. Now Moredydd ap Rhys's reign didn't last all that long because unfortunately his son decided to go and confront the English down in Cardigan, and they chased him all the way back here and they claimed the castle. Then it was contested numerous times over the years between the English and the Welsh, and I believe the last fight was between Owain Glyndŵr and the English. Of course, Owain Glyndŵr, very famous Welsh person, and possibly the last uprising of the Welsh people in their last fight for independence. So a very significant site. As you can see, it's in ruins now. My belief always was that it had been in ruins sort of since Owain Glyndŵr's time, but that's not the case. So why build a castle at Newcastle Emlyn? This is a really good point strategically, because the River Tyvee runs almost all the way around here, apart from the west side, and from here you're up on a hilltop and you can see for miles. So if anybody was to invade, you could see them coming and you could take precautionary measures. Because this is the site of the killing of the last dragon in Wales. One day in Newcastle Emlyn, the good townsfolk were going about their business. There they were, pottering around the mart and doing whatever they were doing, when suddenly down from the sky came a dragon, and it placed itself upon the turrets of the castle. Of course, the townspeople were absolutely terrified at this beast, and they didn't know what to do. Then one brave young man went into the River Tyvee. He went out into the middle of the River Tyvee and he aimed his arrow and he managed to shoot the dragon in the heart. And the dragon fell and it tumbled down the hillside and into the river, and the River Tyvee ran red. And that was the story of the last dragon in Wales. Or was it? So the dragon story didn't end there. Now, that may have been the last dragon in Wales, but Wales is a land of magic. And in 2006, a dragon's egg was brought to the castle. And I'm sat here in this dragon's egg with rather panoramic views of the Teifi Valley, just to share a bit of that magic with you. So this is the Attic Theatre, or Theatr y Daflod. This is a local theatre. It has 86 seats and they hold productions about 4 times a year. Now, when I was younger, I used to come to an amateur dramatics group here, and I was in a production of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Can't think what part they had me in mind for. But, as I say, a very active local theatre. With lockdown, places like this are really struggling. So if you do pop to Newcastle Emlyn, come and support the Attic Theatre. So as we walk towards the clock tower, I'll just explain to you why we've come to Newcastle Emlyn. It's a perfect place to come and have a little mooch about. It's got lots of craft shops, it's got lots of artists and galleries in the local area, it's very foodie, it has some really good charity shops as well. So definitely somewhere that's worth a visit. So this is the Plow Hotel, one of numerous watering holes in Newcastle Emlyn that I used to frequent. I know, I can't believe it either. Just over the road is Butterfly's Tea Room. Now, we haven't partaken of their goods yet. I'm sure they are very lovely. There used to be John's or Wynn's Hot Bread Shop, and I used to get chocolate donuts from just there. And just over there is Central Cafe, which is the fish and chip shop. We won't be partaking of fish and chips today because poor Mr. HubNut is craving a salad. But I remember the days when you used to be able to go swimming and have a portion of chips for £1. So even though this is somewhere where I grew up, I'm still finding out things about the place. And I found out something about this building. In 1904, there was actually quite a significant accident here, an explosion. This was an ironmonger's back at that point in time. And upstairs, the ironmonger was helping a lady and cutting glass for her, not grass. And downstairs, the apprentices were tidying the shop ready for closing. One young man in particular was doing a stock take when an explosion happened. Now, some of the apprentices were blown clear, but one young man, Arthur Lloyd Davis, was blown into the shop and had to be rescued from the building. He was 18 years old and sadly he succumbed to his injuries 3 days later. But that's something I didn't know about Newcastle Emlyn. And it's interesting when you think you know somewhere and it's still got so many secrets to tell. So this is the old grammar school. This is not where I went to school, as you can see. It's quite petite, but I do believe that people used to come and study here in preparation for going to Bible school. And just around behind Ian, if you can swerve around, is London House. Now, if you are of Newcastle Emlyn descent of any time in the near past, you will have got all your school uniform from London House. Sadly, no more, but you can see the old banner schoolwear stickers and so on in the window.
Now I'm just diving into this video because there's some car interest here in Newcastle Emlyn as well. We're at what was the local Vauxhall dealer. It still is a van and car centre, but the servicing's all done out the back. They've got another showroom. This showroom has some very interesting cars in it, including this Vauxhall VXR8, which is obviously a Holden. It's a Holden Club Sport. I think this is a Bathurst S, so it's got the 552 brake horsepower supercharged V8 engine. It just seems a bit odd to see a Vauxhall with Bathurst badges on, because Vauxhall have never really done anything at Bathurst, but obviously Holden have. So it dates from about 2009. Effectively replaced the Lotus Carlton or Omega, which fittingly we have one of over here. It's got the same number plate, which is a little weird, and then behind it is an F-type Vauxhall Victor. So I think it's fair to say when it comes to the corridor group, Vauxhalls, the love of them runs very deep indeed. Let's go and find some cake.
Okay, so this is something else that Newcastle Emlyn is famous for. You can possibly hear in the background the auctioneer. This is the cattle market, and it happens, well, at least it did before COVID, once a week here in Newcastle Emlyn. There's cows, sheep and so on that are sent to mart here. Lots of the local towns lost their mart, so this is something quite rare and quite special. So these are the King George V playing fields, and Newcastle Emlyn, though it's a small town and the surrounding area, has a really good sporting history. It has a football club, it has a rugby club. We won't talk about the old rugby club because I definitely didn't use it for sports. We'll get into that when we get down by the river. But one of the local boys, I believe his name's Gareth Davis, has just been selected for the Lions. When I was in school, there were two young men who used to go and play football over in America. There must be something good in the air because lots and lots of sportsmen and women come from this area. So this is the River Tyvee. It runs around Newcastle Emlyn Castle. The river originates up in the hills above Tregaron in the Cors Caron, and it ends at Cardigan, which is Abertyfi in Welsh, which means the mouth of the Tyvee. Now, as you can see today, this is quite calm, but she can be a cruel mistress, the Tyvee, and she will rise almost to the level of the bridge and envelop the businesses that surround. There's a couple of houses around here with sandbanks. It's lovely to see the Riverside Cafe back open because I know that they were severely flooded once, and then on another occasion they've got defences now, so they were very nearly flooded. But this is the River Tyvee. Now, another thing about here is that just over this is the natural geographic boundary of the counties of Ceredigion and Carmarthenshire. This side of the river is Carmarthenshire, and this side of the river is Ceredigion. Also, when you cross the river, you're no longer in Newcastle Emlyn, you're actually in a place called Adpar. And in Adpar wasn't always known as Adpar. There is some discussion as to whether it was known as Llanhedin or Drefhedin. Now, Llanhedin means the church of the seed, and Drefhedin means the town of the seed. But Adpar plays a really very, very important role in the printing history of Wales. It is in fact the home of the first printing press in Wales, and we're going to learn a little bit more about that in a moment before we get our lunch as well. So this is the site of the first official printing press in Wales. There was one about 150 years earlier, which I believe was created by Catholics who were printing illegal documents, so it was destroyed So this is recognised as the first official printing press in Wales, and it seems quite late. It arrived here in 1718 and it was erected by a gentleman called Isaac Carter. Now the lovely thing about this plaque is the committee that created this tablet, the Happy Winter Evening Entertainments, 1912. I would love to know more about that. Now, just going back to the sad story of Arthur Lloyd Davis, just over there is a business that was known as the Red Cow, and it's there where they investigated his death. What happened was that within the ironware store was a safe containing explosives. Now, it was to be kept closed and kept safe, but unfortunately sometimes the doors were left open, and of course you could smoke and so on indoors at that point in time. So they did the investigations over in the Red Cow, and Arthur lived not very far that way, and any of the fees and so on that those involved collected were actually given to his family. So we're here at the Riverside Cafe, which is absolutely just on the river. You can hear it rumbling by. And this is a vegetarian cafe. It's an absolutely lovely spot. I've just ordered a lasagna, which is going to come with various salads, which I'm very excited about. And Ian is going to indulge in a British delicacy of chip butty, aren't you?
Yep, looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm quite excited for your chip butty because I know you're going to eat half my lasagna.
And I have a proper mug of tea.
Yeah, mug of tea. That's a really good point. So, as well as Newcastle Emlyn, which is a lovely place to come and visit, there are some really nice places to visit locally. About 4 miles away is a village called Valindre, which translates as small town, mill town. And it used to be the heart of the woolen industry locally. There were numerous mills, but there's only one that's up and running nowadays, and it's actually the National Woolen Museum of Wales, and it's well worth a visit. Now, I used to live next door to that place, and in our garden my dad discovered tunnels which he dug out, and we used to go exploring proper famous 5-style through all these tunnels when I was a child. As well as that, in the opposite direction you have Kenneth Falls. Now the falls are actually really famous, not just because they featured in a Tyvee advert with the lady flicking her hair back, but also because the salmon go there and leap up the falls. Now the falls vary. They can be very tame when it's been dry, but they can also be absolutely ferocious and astounding when the weather has been very, very wet. So a couple of places in the local area of Newcastle Emlyn that are worth a visit. Oh, and another little thing, this is just a random observation, this plant growing just down here is known as policeman's helmet. And when I was a child, I absolutely loved that plant because it grows these little pods that are shaped almost like a pear. And when you put them in the heat of your hand, they explode. As a child, obviously, that's the kind of thing that appeals to you. I just wanted to share that little tidbit with you. So lunch has arrived. And here I have the lasagna, the vegetable lasagna, which is absolutely delicious. I had a little sneaky bite, I am sorry. And then they give you 5 salads of the day. So I've got a coleslaw here. There's like a tomato and cucumber salad, which looks like it's got dill. There's a chickpea salad. I think those are potatoes with mint. And then these are roasted vegetables. Then Mr. HubNut has a rather lovely looking chip butty. That looks delicious.
Yeah.
That's an absolute classic. Chip butty, open to discussion, chip sandwich, chip balm, chip whatever you want to call it. But another staple of British cuisine. So we're going to enjoy these. Didn't even have to move from the Riverside Cafe to find cake. So here we have a tart, which is for Mr. HubNut. And what have you got in there?
Blackberry and chocolate, I think.
Blackberry and chocolate, gorgeous, which is topped with cream. And then I've got a chocolate and amaretto cake. We weren't sure what it was. We saw it was chocolatey, and I just sent it in for the chocolatey thing. The other lovely thing is this china. That is really nice china. So I'm going to have a little taste.
Oh, you're going to live taste on camera?
Live taste on camera, yeah. That's lovely. We've just had a delicious lunch over at the Riverside Cafe and some fabulous cake. As Mr. HubNut promised cake, we had to have cake. But I just wanted to clarify, because I remember when we were by the playing field that I mentioned the rugby club and that I didn't go there to play sport, which possibly sounded a little bit dodgy. Well, if you were a youth of Newcastle Emlyn of a certain age, around my era, then you would start your night up in town. We usually started in the 3 compasses, worked your way around, and at the end of the night you would come tottering down here to this building just over here, which is now a workshop. But back in my youth, that was Hookers. The famous, perhaps infamous, night spot. It used to have fluorescent walls, and it was night spelt N-I-T-E as opposed to N-I-G-H-T. So you can imagine the class of place that it was, but many happy memories from hookers. So the scenery's changed a little bit, and I believe my friends and I used to sit a little bit more that way. But this is the River Tyvee, or the Avon Teifi, Avon being the Welsh word for river. And in my GCSE summer, the long hot years when you're 16 years old and just starting out on life, every time we finished an exam, this is where we would come. We'd come and sit down by the river, and it was absolutely glorious. Now, up the river that way is Henllan, and hopefully we'll go and do Henllan Railway another day, because a certain person is a big fan of railways. So as well as that, we've just come down the Dragon's Walk. So to celebrate the arrival of the new dragon, there is a Dragon's Walk that takes you all the way around the castle. And we just wanted to end this video where we started it, which is at Newcastle Emlyn Castle. So Newcastle Emlyn, it's got craft shops, it's got artists, it's got lovely cafes, it's got charity shops. Now the charity shops are really good, I have to say, I am a big fan. It's got everything you could want for a little town to come and spend a day mooching around and pootling around. I've just caught a water boatman under the water. Sorry, it's distracted me slightly. So come to Newcastle Emlyn. It's the place of my youth, and it's a place that I still hold dear in my heart, and I'd love to share it with you. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and hopefully we'll see you soon in another video. Bye! I'm not entirely sure. Oh my god, I don't like it. Oh god!